Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 96 of the Toonami Escape podcast. I'm Greg Zeno. Tonight we have B-Dubs.
Hello.
And Seda.
Is B-Dubs here every week?
No.
Most weeks. I was out not last week, but the week before because I was at the Champions League game.
Yeah, I saw your Twitter images on that.
Yeah, no, I was there and I had good seats and I was hanging with a bunch of drunk guys and we were having fun and
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
But I was just admiring your dedication because I only show up here like once every 2 months.
Well, I mean, I don't really do anything on Tuesdays, so it's not
I
like
mean, Seda, you're not a regular.
Yeah.
B-Dubs
Seda used to be a regular.
used to be a regular.
But now he's got fancy lab job.
Yep.
Not so fancy.
Anyway, want to hear
Enough
it?
for your-
Want to hear some new information about Fully Cooley because they just dropped some.
Sure.
Yay, June.
Fully Cooley Progressive's coming out on June 2nd at 11:30.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. When I saw Fooly Cooly Progressive, I'm like, Progressive? Wait, isn't that the subtitle of the next SAO series? God damn it!
No.
Yeah, I was like that, and then I, reread it. I'm like, wait, oh, it's just Fooly Cooly. Okay, we're good. We're good.
It's progressive and alternative, which are very
Yeah.
likely rock.
Oh, 100%.
And then Alternative comes out in September.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a new trailer. It showed a couple of scenes from an old trailer.
Yeah,
From last
I mean, it
summer.
still looks good.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot to go on. It's just like a
Mhm.
minute or whatever.
I will have to sit down and watch Fully Cooley sometime, so I know how I will feel when they actually come out.
The trailer is
Mhm.
mostly Haruko, her original English voice again. It sounds maybe a little bit different than what she did before, but it has
I
been
think she's
14
older.
years. I mean, it's been 14 years.
I mean,
15
yeah,
years.
of course she's older.
But it's the same character.
Universe.
It's her. Haruko is a weird character, and she's kind of got a pretty unique voice, and it's kind of that weird catty voice that she had in the English version. So it's like clearly her. It just it's a little bit different than what it was 14 years ago. But we don't have a whole lot of information. But basically, Haruko shows up in both of these series, I believe. And each of these series stars a different character. One of them is a 14-year-old girl, and one of them is a 17-year-old girl, I believe.
I think the other one is a boy.
Oh, I might be wrong.
Who knows?
Let me pull up the.
The one we've seen a lot is the girl with the cat headphones, because I'm assuming
Yeah.
she's the protagonist of Progressive, and we haven't seen a whole lot of Alternative.
Mhm.
The other one is also a girl, 17-year-old Kana, a high school junior who spends her days hanging with her besties. So both seasons are not only Haruko but a teenage 14-year-old or 17-year-old girl. So,
Cool.
and so in terms of the show itself, there's obviously a little bit of hesitation in terms of is this just going to be a retread? Was it necessary?
I mean, I think outside of Toonami communities and the wider anime community, it's more like either, yeah, I'm totally excited for this, or this is definitely just for money. It's gonna be.
It's kind of funny. This is just kind of generalizing, but people who are really, really, really deep into the anime culture
Mhm.
seem to not like it because I don't know if they're just upset that it's funded by American.
No, it's
mean,
because
company.
it's basically boils down to do not make more Fully Cooley.
Yeah,
It
it's almost
has to be bad
gatekeeper.
because there was no need for it to exist.
Yeah. But I've also seen a lot of enthusiasm from people who, just liked the original show and they just want to see,
More.
they're just curious about seeing more. And these people aren't necessarily really into anime. They just enjoyed the original show when it aired and they just kind of want to see where it goes. So,
I mean, that's
Right.
exactly why it was made. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, most people will be just see new Fully Cooley and be like, what?
Yeah,
I
they'll be excited.
I think the where potential lies in this series is the fact that there's two series. And
Mhm.
we don't know if these two seasons, progressive and alternative, how do those connect to each other, or do they? Like, are they totally separate entities, or there's some sort of weird, link between these two seasons? We know that Progressive takes place after the original Fooly Cooly anime, so there's a timeline there. But in terms of Progressive and alternative, like, how exactly that dynamic works, that is, there's a little bit of potential there, especially with the alternative season, which is younger creators who are, quote from the press release, who will redefine the meaning of sequel. So at least, like, if this was just the announcement of one 6-episode set, Fooly Cooly 2, that was basically the Progressive set, it would feel maybe a little bit more like just a retread. I'm hearing somebody in the background there. But the fact that there are 2 seasons like this, it's like, well, what are they going to do with that? And I actually am a little bit curious about it.
We also don't know. Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, it does look cool, and I mean, sort of the names alone kind of, I mean, they could give you an idea, because Progressive comes first and Alternative comes second, and Progressive could just be a straight sequel, and maybe Alternative's a weird retelling of that sequel. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. And they're probably not going to show their cards.
No, I mean, they're barely showing anything so far, so I'm genuinely interested to see what the heck's going on.
And I mean, that's just kind of my point. It's like the fact that there are these kind of 2 different seasons, and that they don't even call them like Fooly Cooly 2 and 3.
Right.
That makes it more interesting than the alternative if it was just like one new season. It's like,
or just season.
It could be terrible. We don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like there's something there that they're at least going to try.
Yeah. I mean, I do think this is also better than if they had just done season 2 and season 3. For all we know, it could just be season 2 and season 3, or they could be doing something super interesting, or something kind of interesting, or it might just be season 2 and season 3, and it's really interesting anyway.
They show up as Fooly Cooly 2 and 3 on all of the anime list sites that you would use.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're just slow.
But that was kind of how it was announced. But it seems like since then the official language has changed in terms of like what Adult Swim is calling it. I think.
And what? And even I don't think the producers are calling it.
Yeah. So it just, anyways, basically we're talking about these things because we don't have a whole lot else to go on. Now the other thing that's a little bit interesting is that it airs the Progressive version. June 2nd at 11:30. That's a little bit of an awkward time slot.
That's currently where Black Clover is airing, and that's a bit before DBZ Kai is scheduled to air. It's scheduled to end.
Yeah, so DBZ Kai ends at mid-June, so a couple weeks after that, and then like the next closest, basically like time for that a slot would open up is Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans ends in late April.
Yeah.
Well, now, it's got 5 episodes left, so that makes sense.
So April.
And then, like, there's also a Ghost in the Shell, which is at the very end of the block, ends in early May. Who knows what they'll do. But it's like I'm not exactly sure. Like trying to predict how the schedule might change before then. Like, is Black Clover going to be like bumped up to 11, or
it could very well be they get another half hour at some point as well,
or maybe when like Ghost in the Shell ends, then they move everything back an hour or half an hour.
Ghost in the Shell won't end in the right spot.
Well, yeah. So,
speaking of schedule, if you were expecting to find out what the new show was on this podcast, if you didn't already know, well, we still don't know, because this coming Saturday is two episodes of Cowboy Bebop to finish out the run, and then I guess everyone's assuming some kind of April 1st thing. Next week.
And then we have absolutely no idea what the hell's going on.
And then they could do anything from literally just like, we're cutting a slot, to here's a new show.
So I mean,
or here's 2 new shows.
Yeah, basically after this weekend, March 24th. We'll have to have basically Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop will have ended. Cowboy Bebop kind of taking over Outlaw Star's place for 1 week. And then it's possible both those shows get replaced. I find that unlikely.
I think at
I
least
don't know.
one of them just sticks around.
It's possible
I
that
don't
it's possible maybe they'll rerun Cowboy Bebop in one of the slots and then have Outlaw Stars replacement show up, and that's some new show. It's possible they'll cut half an hour and replace Cowboy Bebop Outlaw Star with one new show.
It's also possible they pick something super long that's already super in,
A rerun
and they
of
just go.
7.
Well, no, I mean like way longer than that, and just go. Okay, here's an hour of show X. That is, 900 episodes long.
Inuyasha, come back. But in the announcement on Facebook, they specifically said, we're moving Space Dandy up to 2:00. And it's like, would they say that if it was going to move again?
Just out of curiosity, I just checked a TV listing site. And of course, their April 1st schedule, they have Cowboy Bebop airing twice again, which is, just copying the previous week.
Yeah,
they don't know what's going to happen. And honestly, on April 1st, it's probably going to hit 12.
Yeah.
And everything is going to be fart noises.
Probably. Or they'll just do
they'll just be all the regular episodes you would see. But no, you would have to change something because...
Just to note, last year's April Fool's prank was that... Now, last year, April Fool, it was a little bit different because...
wasn't it like straight up like, here's the first episode of Rick and Morty 17 times?
Well, that's what it was.
Normally, they do it... Like April 1 last year was on a Saturday. This year, it's on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I think Adult Swim historically will do their April Fool's stuff on April 1st that night, not so April 1st night, so that'd be Sunday night, not Saturday night, I think.
Right.
But they're probably going to be pretty loose and do something. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
you can never tell.
Last year,
presentation of The Room.
Yeah, last year they did that Rick and Morty stunt, which cut off the first two shows.
It cut off Super and Sam Jack, and people were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Oh yeah, people were not happy.
No,
and I mean, it could just be they go like, "No, fuck it. Here's 4 hours of fairy tale."
It's all, and you might have mentioned this in previous podcasts I wasn't on, but April 1 is also Easter. Now, Toonami hasn't done Easter marathons for whatever reason. They
Easter it's not an official federal holiday, so people aren't off work.
Yeah, and I guess unlike Halloween, there's not it's not an excuse to go partying.
Don't go out and on Easter.
Yeah.
That's kind of almost
not really
what you're supposed to do. But yeah, because of the fact that it's on a Sunday and that's Easter, it's chances are they're going to do something weird.
You'd almost expect a St. Patrick's Day marathon before an Easter marathon.
Seriously.
But I guess we should expect an announcement of whatever they're going to do, not this week, but the week after.
Yeah.
We had to learn that sometime this week, or else I don't know.
I mean,
who the hell knows?
Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll actually leave us in the dark until that night, and we'll have no idea what's going on.
We will have no idea what.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop ended, Outlaw Star ended. What's going to happen in those slots?
It would be the most thing for them to do some sort of fart noise joke with the regular block, and then just air the next episodes the next week and be like, no, those were our airings of the episode. We just put fart noises in there. We're not airing those again. That would be the most adult fucking Swim thing ever.
Oh god, imagine if they did that for the Hunter x Hunter episode that's coming up. People aren't going to be confused enough.
I'm not familiar with Hunter x Hunter, so I don't know what you're referring to.
We don't know anything. I wonder what's going to replace Gundam. Because that's a slot you actually have to get a new show for.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of hoping for Escaflowne.
Maybe.
I mean, DeMarco wants it. It's just a matter of...
I don't know. Maybe we saw Outlaw Star and hopefully thought, well, they got one, which means they're going to get a whole bunch of old shows that they haven't shown before. And then it's actually, no.
Just the one.
Just Outlaw Star. We got to air it, and we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
Fuck all this other
let me check really quick here. I just want to see their wording on the schedule announcement that they did. What is it? Marker schedules. Toonami switching up the lineup starting next Saturday. Space Dandy is now on at 2 a.m.
And that sounds to me like Space Dandy is not going to leave 2 a.m.
Yeah, if it says starting next Saturday, then it sounds like it's gonna stay there rather than if it was just like if it didn't say starting and it just said next Saturday, Space Dandy will air at 2 a.m. Like,
and I don't think they're gonna put any new show, even an old new show, behind a rerun.
Well, I guess let me say
depends
the whole
on what depends on what the show is.
Let me say the whole sentence. Starting next Saturday, so that's this Saturday.
Mhm.
Catch Space Dandy at 2 a.m. followed by back-to-back Bebop at 2:30. It almost sounds like they're going to keep Bebop in a back-to-back situation. Will they do that? Maybe.
That'd be annoying.
That'd be really disappointing. Meaning basically nothing would be replaced. Especially when we know they have a show in the wings that's not Fooly Cooly that was supposed to come up earlier in the year, but just couldn't. And like, what happened with that? Who knows? But with Adult Swim, who knows what they want planning on doing?
Yeah, I mean, it could also be that whatever they have there. They could also decide that, okay, we'll put on that, Dandy's going to bring ratings no matter what. So we'll put on some weird older show there and, see how it does.
I mean, I think if we assume that Space Dandy is not going to leave that slot, then our most likely answer is, at least,
lose half hour.
More reruns.
Yeah.
I still think it's weird to me that, like, Toonami was starting at 11 for a while. That's when Super started, right?
Yeah.
And that basically almost seemed like the limit. It wasn't going to go any earlier than that.
And then it did.
And then it did not just in like the weirdest, like most random time. It was a couple weeks before Christmas when they added Black Clover. That was just, I know that's it's already been 3 months or whatever. It's still just such a weird way that happened. Just like,
I mean, it's only been 3 months. It's felt like years.
Yeah.
Specifically, the 30-minute chunks of Black Clover have felt like years.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I could see them justifying it for some shows, but I was like, Black Clover, really?
Like Black Clover could have been a replacement to something else. Like it could have been a replacement to Lupin or something. But no, they just added it. They just made space for it. Like, okay, but I guess Black Clover is pretty popular, like on Crunchyroll. I guess I don't really follow these things. But I know sometimes they do their like United States map, like what is each state watching on Crunchyroll, and apparently Black Clover was the winner in most of the states. I guess that type of shonen anime is popular with young high schoolers that are watching anime. I don't know.
Yeah.
Popular with the lesser people. Anyway, who the fuck knows?
Yep.
You can tell at this point.
Want to talk about the block?
The what?
The block.
Oh yeah. We should probably.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot we were here for that.
Dragon Ball Super episode 55. I'd like to see Goku, you see, a summons from Grand Zeno. In this episode, everyone is losing their fucking minds about what Goku's going to do, but it turns out Goku can just do anything and Zeno will find it hilarious.
They're really lucky that he doesn't destroy the world.
Zeno also gives him a button to summon him whenever needed, and Goku immediately presses it, and he's like, why would you do that? I'm right here.
Yeah. So maybe my memory is poor, but has Zeno actually done or said anything that actually seems threatening? Like,
I told those two guys in this episode, he's like, you go back or bye-bye.
Oh yeah, that's true. But like, I feel like there's a lot of focus given to like people like Beerus and Whis. They grovel and they are basically like whenever Zeno is around, they're walking on eggshells. But like it almost seems like Zeno is not really that like what are the actual chances of him like doing something?
You'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like this hasn't really shown like how like how much of a short fuse he has, I guess. So he just kind of seems like a playful child, which I know is the point, but
that could be horrifying.
A playful child with the power to delete entire universes.
Also in this episode, there was... Oh yeah, Beerus has the worst weakness ever. If Supreme Kai dies, so does he.
Yep. So his life is literally tied to this utter moron.
It's kind of funny how like Supreme Kai is like, it's obviously the viewers have kind of just come to the easy conclusion like, wow, Supreme Kai is kind of a wimp and he sucks. And then the show just kind of like embraced that, like, yeah, the Supreme Kai is he's kind of useless. Yep. Like, they just acknowledged it up front. Like when Supreme Kai was first like introduced, you know, they kind of made him like a little bit naive, but now he's just like worse than naive. He's just like totally useless. And they just kind of embraced that. Like, yeah, that's the Supreme Kai.
I mean, I'm okay with that. Because, I mean, if they make him too cool or important, it's like...
Then he becomes Zamasu.
Well, Beerus kind of takes this role of like a character who is, you know, he's got, you know, Beerus has a personality that's at least a little bit. He plays off of the other characters well. He is not useless. It's actually kind of a weird dynamic in Dragon Ball where usually it's all about becoming stronger to take on somebody stronger. And then like meanwhile you have this guy who's stronger than most people there, and the only reason why he's not a factor is because he's just chilling.
Lazy. Yeah. I mean, he's not useless, but he's also completely useless.
So yeah, there's more Zamasu just babbling about how awesome he is and how sucky everyone else is in this episode.
Yep.
This world is imperfect.
All about the Ningen.
I wish I could cleanse it of impurities and make it as beautiful as me.
He's totally not the bad guy of the arc, guys.
No.
I promise.
I don't think Dragon Ball is usually one for subtlety, but...
No. I mean, this is still a bit on the nose.
I do feel like the arc here is dragging a little bit, maybe.
Like I just want to see him turn into Goku Black.
Like it's kind of like a training arc, I guess. But I guess they now just finally went back to the future or whatever.
Yeah.
And they got this. Goku got this button, which we know is probably going to be important. So
he's going to push it.
But yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this episode. Just,
I mean, not a whole lot happened.
Yeah. Grand Zeno is, you know, kind of adorable.
Dragon Ball Z Kai?
Okay.
Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final chapter is episode 154. Boo's Ace in the Hole. The warriors are absorbed. Of course, in this episode, there's more boring fighting until Boo turns them into a little candy, and then they still beat him up. And that's awesome.
And that is actually pretty funny.
I'm surprised that this isn't filler, or you know, it's at least, you know, expanded upon or whatever. But it's, I know, like the Boo saga, Toriyama made it more comedic, like in general, with Gotenks and now this and whatever. And while it's still not real, it's still kind of hard to follow and watch, just because it is kind of, I don't know, what's the word for this? It's not boring. It's almost just kind of like, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know, Boo's just
it's rote. Yeah.
And the fact that Boo is just, you know, absorbing people to get stronger, and then our protagonists are just merging together. It's just like, okay, what's, you know, I don't know. It's just not interesting, I guess. But the candy thing is like, it's just that's one of those things that it's so silly that it's like you almost just imagine it, and like, oh, they actually went there. That he just has full control of himself as he's this little candy, I don't know, jawbreaker, and just beating him up.
Yep.
This is the everlasting gobstopper, motherfucker. And then he actually does get absorbed, but he wants to.
Because that's the plan, and we got to get Goku that win somehow.
I like how, I am mildly amused how like stupid cocky Vegito gets. You know, it was similar with Gotenks. Like it's like ridiculously cocky, like to almost a satirical extent without being satire. And like one of the lines in the dub was like, "I'm totally owning you" or something like that, or "I can totally own you." And I just thought it was like wow,
that's ridiculous.
Well, like that's language that we used back in 2008. I own you.
Well, that's when they wrote this.
Basically. I mean, actually, this dub was probably done quite a while ago, right? They just been sitting on it.
I think so. I don't think that long ago, but still.
Just to be clear, I'm not criticizing that. It almost seems appropriate that Vegito, this cocky idiot, is like, "Yeah, I own you." You know, just okay.
Yep.
Anyway, there's not much else in Dragon Ball Z Kai.
Yeah, I'm trying to like say something. It's like, what else is there to say?
It's not a whole lot.
I mean, when an episode of Dragon Ball is mostly fighting, it's like they punched and they shot beams for a while.
I will say, I don't know what you guys thought when you discussed it a while back, but I thought the battle between Gohan and Super Buu, while like the actual like circumstances around the battle was kind of useless and pointless, I thought like the actual animation and choreography of that stuff with Gohan and Super Buu, I thought it was actually not too bad. It felt like
it was pretty good.
It felt like a good mix of, you know, martial arts, you know, anime beam spam, and using the environment and things like that. And I kind of feel like this is actually a step down from that. It's a little bit more just kind of rote. I feel like it's less interesting. There's less variety in how these characters are attacking each other. I mean, you get stuff like, I don't know, Vegito like has like this giant sword or something that, you know, he like stabs them from a distance or something like that. You know, I guess somewhat interesting in a very mild level, but it's just otherwise I feel like the Gohan battle is actually more interesting. And I guess the fact that that kind of ended with like this really bullshit, you know, move is just like, well, why should I care now?
I mean,
the point. Sorry,
go for it.
I'm like processing my thoughts as I talk here. That the reason why Vegito is kind of like, you know, dragging this out or playing with them is that he knows that, you know, his sons and Vegeta's son are in there, and they can't just obliterate Buu because they'll obliterate their sons. And Piccolo,
and not only them, but you know, apparently they can sense other people in there too.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and because that's apparently why Gohan didn't just nuke him from the start, because he's like, oh wait, I sense something. And
well, let's see. Buu ate a lot of the people who were on the lookout. So people like Krillin and Android 18 and
and Videl.
And then he absorbed Piccolo, Goten, Gohan, and Trunks. So all those people are in him, and that's basically the justification for the end of this episode is basically absorb me, and
so I can go save it. So he can go save people, presumably.
And considering he was able to control himself while he was a gobstopper, then
I'm pretty sure.
Absorb is probably no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like it just feels. And what you were saying about how the way the Gohan fight ended was bullshit, and you're like, oh, why should I care? That's actually how a great many people feel about sort of everything past that point, because sort of like, oh, we got all this build up to this, and it's really cool, and then, well, fuck it. You know, and I mean, what comes after Vegito is actually kind of cool, and, you know, it's a fitting end for it, but it's just, you know, the space between where Gohan gets absorbed and beaten and where this fight eventually goes, like everything in between that is like, no, this is bad. There's probably another way to do this.
And I also feel that like this whole arc in general is just, it's so obvious that Toriyama is really just writing from the seat of his pants. He probably does this all the time, but it's
No, of
especially
course.
obvious here with things like, let's just bring Vegeta back out of nowhere, literally with the explanation, like, we just kept you around just in case. And hey, in case, now we need you. And then also things like Majin Buu can make a tear in space-time by yelling really loudly. So I guess it feels like you can just make some sort of explanation for anything. And like, well, like, why even try to, like, you know, one thing about following some sort of storyline is I don't know how to put this exactly, but like you kind of want to.
You're forced into making sense of things.
Well, not only are you paying attention to what's happening now, but, you know, in any storyline, you're trying to, you know, think about what might happen next, predicting where characters are going to go and what events are going to happen. But when you have like these bullshit things that happen, it's like, who cares anymore? Just like he can just write anything and make some sort of weak explanation for it, and then we just kind of have to accept it. Like, yep, that works.
I mean, I think part of it is that, you know, this is like the end of this, supposed to be the end of the series, and everyone's supposed to be like top tier. Like, you're not supposed to be getting any stronger than this. This is like as high as the power levels are supposed to go, and then it's, so, you know, it goes, oh, you can actually get way stronger than this. You know, I think knowing that there's still so much room for these guys to get stronger sort of makes sort of the ass pulls even more of an ass pull.
Yeah,
you know, because you know, like if Boo is near the top of the food chain, and it's like, oh, like hardly anyone in the universe can possibly get this strong. There's like 2 of them, and you know, it makes it less of, you know, of a crazy thing that he can just nuke his way out of an alternate dimension. But knowing that, oh, there's like billions of levels above that, it's like it makes it really dumb. I mean, more than it already is.
And the thing when we like compare this to like Dragon Ball Super, which, you know, Super obviously has some of these same issues, but like at least we have this sort of mystery element to like, what the heck is Goku Black? And so like there's at least something there to kind of hook a viewer's interest. You know, it's not just can they beat him, it's what is he? And that's, you know, I think it's just a small thing, but it helps a lot. Right.
Yeah. I like that's
and
sort
also,
of what
I kind of feel this is actually one reason why I kind of like the Android saga, or the earlier parts of the Cell saga. Is I think
I was going to say that
Trunks's you know, predicament is like, because it's almost anti-Dragon Ball, because there's an actual death and destruction that he has to live with. And basically, that actually gives him a little bit more sympathy from me or the viewer. Like, you know,
because he can't just fix it.
Yeah, it's not just, you know, let's just beat the guy and use the Dragon Balls and wish everything to be exactly how it was before, because they can't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got to go.
And future Trunks is almost one of the best characters in the series, because he has something of this to this effect in terms of like a personal, you know.
Like he's got a
conflict that he's, you know, basically the center of.
He's basically got a
Goku's conflict is just, I want to fight someone stronger who's destroying the world. And like,
right. Yeah. I mean, it's like future Trunks, like he has to live with the consequences of his actions. You know, if he's not strong enough to beat a guy and he can get away, he's got to live with seeing everybody die. And then, you know, that sort of thing. If Goku's not strong enough, he just gets away, jumps in the time chamber for a day, and then comes back out, beats up the bad guy, and then wishes everybody back. You know, it's like we feel more for future Trunks because he's actually got to live with this shit. But what I was going to say about Cell is that arc, everything up to, you know, sort of perfect Cell is very much almost monster movie-ish, you know, which is, it's a very cool place for the series to go, and it makes it feel, that arc feel really different. And like, I feel like they kind of try and do that here, but Boo is just way too ridiculous for it, you know.
I feel like this is a discussion for Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
We got off the episode.
We ended up talking a bit more than we were going to. So
anyway,
we're done. We are done.
Yeah, whatever.
Speaking of things that you shouldn't talk too much about, Black Clover. Black Clover episode 14, Dungeon. In this episode, hey, this is just a game, so here's a dungeon. There are dungeons in this world with actual game stuff. Go explore it.
So when we talk like video games, especially like a Japanese RPG,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it just you call like these explorable levels that you go through dungeons, and you know,
Yeah.
even if they're
not always dungeons.
I mean, just kind of like when you're speaking generally, they're not like always a dungeon, but just kind of it's kind of like a boss fight. You know, the fact that we call them bosses is a little bit awkward. It's just kind of what you call them now, and people know what you're referring to when you say a video game dungeon. It's
It's like the place where you can't easily heal and you have to trudge through it. And
it's where the battles take place. You're not in the town where you're like doing shopping or talking to NPCs or something.
You're not in the field where you can just go buy a mana potion anytime you want. You're sort of stuck in this almost enclosed place, and you have to deal with it.
But my point was just kind of how they so bluntly just call it, what is
dungeon?
Dungeon. Like they don't like I feel like when we're talking about video games and we're generalizing things, that we make that generalization to call like it a dungeon because we're talking about things like dungeon design or whatever, and that allows us to compare and contrast one game to the other. You're not doing that in real life. In real life, like I feel like if this was if I were to take this basic premise and make it sound a little bit more natural, they would just say they found these ancient ruins and they need somebody to explore them, not try to like generalize it to like, well, this is something we call a dungeon. What is a dungeon? Well, it's just like that doesn't feel natural at all.
I mean, it sort of feels like there's these ruins all over the goddamn place and they're like tripping over themselves, running into them. It's like, oh, we should call them something because there's so many of these places to fight monsters and get loot.
Even then, I feel like they wouldn't actually give them some sort of generic title. But anyways,
I don't know. They might call them. They might have like a code name for it or something. If like there's one under every other rock.
Yeah, it's just kind of awkward and it feels very video gamey.
It sort of feels like they wanted to do a video game episode, and they're like, okay, let's do a video game episode, and there we go. Wait, was this actually filler or not?
I think this was actually the first episode in several weeks that was actually not filler.
Which you can tell because at the end, makes a huge dramatic entrance, and it's like, oh my god, it's that we just saw last episode.
Yeah. I mean, sort of, I did get into this weird conversation in the thread about how part of the reason they had that episode was to apparently build up the relationship between the two of them, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, don't you need both of them on screen at the same time to do that?
Those filler episodes, like they seem to have like tried to give a little bit more, I don't know,
depth
spotlight to and his squad, who's the characters I don't even remember. One of them is
but they need it.
Oops, too bad. They're extremely boring.
I mean, sort of my question to that was, did they need the spotlight though?
No, I mean, obviously being filler, they're a little bit handicapped in what they can do. But like literally, the episode ended with like, we have 5 guys who are bad guys, and they're trying to get you, and then like takes them all down like one by one. And it's like,
it's like it's a joke. He doesn't even really need that. He doesn't even really need the help he gets. But whatever. It was just this sort of weird thing I was thinking about. I'm like, because. Like, I sort of thought about that Naruto filler arc between the Sasuke retrieval arc and the Chunin exams, where it's just, Team 7 going on a regular-ass mission, and then sort of hanging out, and it sort of built up that rivalry a little bit and sort of teased at the gap that had sort of grown between the two of them, so that the next arc didn't feel so out of nowhere. And I don't know, I'm watching this and I'm thinking it probably could have used stuff like that where, even though it's filler, they did, they know what's coming up so they can sort of help set it up better than was actually done in the source material. Because, I mean, if you know what's coming, then you can do some interesting things. It's not like it's filler where, you have no idea what's about to happen and you don't want to do anything that might step on that and all that. But when you know what's coming, you can just go like, yeah, okay, let's build into that a little bit.
Now, one other thing in this episode that I don't know why this bugs me. I mean, I know why it bugs me, but why am I bringing it up now? But this is like the 7th time they've done this thing in the anime where they go around each character in this Black Bull squad.
God.
Like they go around in like this really formulaic, mechanical way. They give like each character like a 10-second little quip about their one character quirk, like the girl who eats sweets, the guy who mumbles, the guy who's obsessed with his sister.
The that guy is definitely getting a nomination for worst character.
The lady
he is
who's
the worst
drunk.
character.
Like
yeah.
Like I don't.
I feel like it's just to get them. Yeah, I feel like it's just to get them. Okay, hang on. I feel like
we have to get them participating.
Yeah, no, I mean it does literally feel like they sort of took the complaints that people had about people not having enough screen time and took it extremely literally and just decided to give people more screen time instead of actually doing something with that screen time.
And the kick is they'll do the same thing every time.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is like when people say they want a character to have more screen time, it means, they want that character to do things. They want to see more of that character in a certain way. Like they want to see.
They want the character to have some sort of agency and some sort of role.
Exactly, yeah. Like they want, to see more of Yuno's character. They want to see more of Siscon guy's character. They don't want them to be
do they?
One note and rote. And I mean, I hope so. Like when I make that complaint, that's what I want. I don't just want this character to be on screen more. I want that character to have more of a spotlight. I want them to have just more of a story of their own, even if it's a tiny one.
I want all of these characters to have 0 screen time.
Well, no, I mean I
said in the thread
I want all of these characters to die, but that's just me.
I said in the thread yesterday that it's impressive almost that like every single character in the show is
I hate them.
Bad.
Yeah.
If I said, and there was a small conversation, like if I had to pick a character who is the least bad, it's probably Noelle. But then we had to remember how this episode ended.
Oh yeah, at the end of this episode, naturally, because it's an anime and they're in a dungeon and kind of a gamey environment, they almost get eaten by a giant plant vagina. And it is always a vagina.
It's always a plant vagina.
With vines, grabbing their legs and arms.
Yeah, with penis vines, of course. Because why not?
So yeah, this show is not very good.
No, I'm having
a. I'm trying to be like a cynic, like.
No, it's just not good.
So like, just thinking about like the last couple of sets of episodes, there was a couple of episodes with Asta's team like taking on a guy with ice powers who was like taking out poor people because he's a jerk. I know that's filler, but those episodes like played out in the most typical fashion.
Oh no, that was canon. They actually did do that.
Oh, that was canon?
You gotta be kidding me! Seriously?
I think it was like literally a chapter and a half.
Okay, but like
throw a twist in there, something unexpected. Like have it be like if you're gonna play it out normally, at least have everybody involved be super weird, so it's not entirely normal.
Well, let me just. I want to kind of try to condense this down a bit. So, like the villain of that group or that part was literally just, I am taking out these poor people because they're not as good as the nobles. That's literally his.
I know.
Like, I'm not even trying to like.
No, I know.
That was it. That was his motivation. Just like I'm killing people, and then it basically played out with Asta's like, that's bad. Let's not do it, and I'm going to never ever give up until you stop. And like
also Wizard King.
Yeah, and then Noelle's thing in that little part was, I feel useless. What do? I'm a noble, but I suck. And then she's like, wait, these people are relying on me. I'm going to get inspired, and then I'm going to, believe in myself. And I feel like this whole thing of never give up, believe in myself is just so
it's overdone,
shonen, and it's just like there's nothing interesting here. And then the next couple of episodes were the Yuno episodes, which were just boring because Yuno is boring. It was literally just, wow, look at
do awesome things that
wow,
aren't really
look
that awesome.
Look how capable is, and I know sometimes it's fun seeing a character who is capable,
but not in this case.
Because we the opposite is that you get someone like Asta who is
incapable.
Well, I guess he's not even that incapable, but sometimes it is fun to see a character who is like knowledgeable.
They know what they're
capable,
they know what they're doing.
But is just like so.
He's
I am
boring.
perfect, and I can deduce everything that is thrown my way very, very easily and very readily with no issues whatsoever. You're basically just ironing out the interest out of everything. These last several episodes that covered in general like the last 5 episodes or so, right?
Like the last 10.
And it's just maybe the manga is better if you can read a part like this, and it only takes 5 minutes to read a chapter.
I don't have to listen to Asta.
Yeah,
like I can give him a better voice in my head.
Like sort of when you're saying it's fun to watch a capable character, like my brain immediately goes to like Shikamaru and sort of his fights, where it's like he's very intelligent, he's very capable, he never loses because he's intelligent and he's capable and he's clever, but at the same time he still always struggles. Like
Shikamaru's one arc. He does.
Well, I mean, not all. Yeah,
which helps.
It's also like not only that, but like he's constantly struggling even when he does succeed. Like in the Chunin exams, like he's basically getting his butt kicked. When Sasuke retrieval arc, he practically dies in order to win. Like he's always getting his butt kicked, but he still feels capable and intelligent, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. But like you were saying with it's like he's perfect and immaculate and he needs no help from anybody, but he'll let you help him if you must.
Two things I want to mention. 2 things why I think someone like Shikamaru is considerably better than someone like
Yes.
Shikamaru has quite a few like interactions with other characters. Well, let me the 2 things I had in mind. Shikamaru has interactions with other characters that show him more as like a human being in terms of like in terms of his relationship with his sensei, his name is Asuma, and his friends, and even with Naruto. Like sometimes the anime will actually dedicate time to just interaction between Shikamaru and other characters, and you can kind of you have that interaction with you don't really get that. He's just kind of like standoffish. And
I would say he's not even like standoffish. He's just kind of like
he's like in his own world.
He exists. Like sure there's other people in the scene, but he knows he's the only one that matters. They might as well not even be there. He took care of it all fine by himself.
The other thing I was going to mention is just a little bit more shallow, but Shikamaru has he's kind of a more like aloof, detached personality, which I think I just prefer that versus he's kind of sarcastic, he's kind of snippy. I just kind of prefer that type of personality,
right?
Versus someone who's just so stoic as who he like speaks as little as possible, and he's always so matter of fact. So anyways, Black Clover.
I mean that's sort of what I was going into when I said he has flaws. It's like is his aloofness, he's lazy, like he does have legitimate character flaws, whereas even though he's competent and capable and all that stuff, like Spike is competent and capable and all that stuff, but he's also got flaws.
He's also got a personality.
Well, I mean, that too, but Jet's got flaws, and sort of all these characters, no matter how capable they are, they have they're flawed in some way, which is part of what gives them personality. But it's kind of like he's so perfect that he can't really have a personality because he doesn't have a flaw of any kind. And it's like
I also feel that like this is maybe more generalized. The goals that and Asta have is just not there's not much there for us to be supportive of them.
It's a very childish goal.
Asta wants to be the Wizard King
What does that mean?
It's kind of like Naruto wanting to be Hokage, where he's just like, I want people to respect me, but also
I mean,
like,
that's a different
if
thing.
I'm Wizard King, I think he said loosely at one time, like, I can make sure that we never go poor. It's like, okay, sure, but it's really probably a lot more complicated than that. And Yuno is like, I want to be Wizard King just because I want to, just because I can, you know. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot there. Let me compare that to Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist.
We are so in a hole right now. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's like,
all right.
Well,
I mean, I was gonna
of Black Clover.
All right. Well, I mean, I was just gonna compare it to Luffy and be like, you know, yeah, Luffy wants to be Pirate King, but you know, it just feels like he's got a little bit more going on in his head.
Well, it's
a really weird fucking thing to say when Luffy's got more going on in his head than other characters, because he's a dumbass who can barely find a tall building.
Let me just say one last thing. In a shonen anime like Full Metal Alchemist, it starts out with our characters basically saying, "We fucked up. Let's fix this." And it's this motivation that we can get behind, that we can support. And like, what are these characters trying to do? This makes total sense. I am sympathetic to their plight. Where in Black Clover, it's like, why do I care about what these characters are trying to do?
Right.
That's it.
Like we were never shown why we should care. Like, sure, Asta wants to never be poor again, but it's like there's probably easier ways for him to get rich. Let's be real.
Anyway,
this is what happens when you get me onto the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, when you get just the two of us on together.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders Battle in Egypt, episode 29, Anubis, part 2. In this episode, they fight the barber and then Polnareff, and then he tries to take over a kid, but no. It's always a delight when you see a pose that you forgot happened. Which was the case with like the straight up just like holding the sword bit and just like doing it like a like the splits, and it's like, what the fuck? That's awesome. I forgot that happened. Otherwise, it was basically the fight was basically, I'm so fast, but he's getting faster. Oh no, I'm still really fast, but he's getting faster, and so on.
Yeah,
I mean, at this point, JoJo is clearly it's been a Monster of the Week type show for a while.
Yeah, and it's staying there.
Yeah, and it's just like this is a really well animated episode. Like probably one of the best ones of the show. This one and the previous one, and like I think this little conflict with this sword dude and Polnareff and mind control and just the action of it was all interesting.
It's fun.
Yeah, it was a satisfactory episode. It like just like any other fight in the show, it doesn't like these fights don't really exactly like build off of each other or anything. They're kind of these standalone little
like
events.
You can watch any small arc in the show and come away like, yeah, that was great.
And you can almost rearrange some of these arcs, I'm sure. And you wouldn't. I mean, the location might not make sense, but
right. I think I know where you're going with this because I've been thinking a lot about the same thing.
Well, I'm just saying, like, they could have maybe put this part earlier, or maybe they could have held on to it later. Like I said, location may not make sense, but the show, like the progression of it, yes, there are some of these two-parters, but it's a lot of these conflicts that these characters run into are pretty, distinct from one to the next. So
right.
That's all I was going to say.
I mean, okay. Well, I mean, I was kind of going to take that sort of a step further and say, like, my one complaint about the show is that it's too Monster of the Week for me. Like, sort of, I think the show to compare it to would be if you watch Supernatural on, the CW or whatever. Like, I know it's not anime or whatever, but it's kind of a similar thing where it's every week they have sort of a Monster of the Week, quite literally, and then, they fight the monster, they kill the monster, and then sometimes it'll tie into the main plot, and sometimes it won't, but then sometimes you'll get an entire episode that's basically a mythology episode that's, driving the main plot forward. And I feel like in large part JoJo is kind of missing that. And part of the issue there is Dio is so detached from everything that they never encounter him, and we sort of forget he's there, and we almost forget sort of why they're on this journey sometimes.
It is kind of weird. Like I do think the show is pretty good.
Oh no, I love it. I'm just like, I kind of think that parts 1 and 2 were a lot stronger in this case. Like, we always knew in part 1 that Dio was the big enemy, and they were always on his tail, and he was giving them shit, and they were giving him shit. And then part 2 with the Pillarmen and Joseph, and they were giving each other shit, and they were trading off, and it's just like, this season doesn't have that sense of continuity that the last 2 had that I really liked.
The problem is that most of the Crusaders are stoic. Like, you've got Jotaro,
it's not only that.
And,
I mean,
Kakuin and Avdol running around, and it's like, somebody do something interesting with each other.
That's not really what I'm talking about, though. I'm more saying, like, I kind of wish that Dio wasn't so distant. Like, I want to feel like the plot is moving along in a serious way sometimes. I do think that's the one weakness of this, sort of, this part 3 is that we're jumping from Monster of the Week to Monster of the Week, but while we're getting closer to Dio all the time, it never really feels like, plot-wise, we're getting there.
I think I agree with both of you in kind of a similar way, in that some shows that are maybe a little bit less like story driven and are more episodic, those shows sort of tend to work when you have a really strong cast of characters where, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be moving forward as long as you have a bunch of character interactions and characters bouncing
that's fine, right?
And character growth. Then that can work, but I think JoJo is not really quite the show for that. Like, we're not going to see character growth out of Josuke, really, or any of these characters. In fact, Polnareff is probably the most, like, malleable character here, really. But
even he doesn't really grow it much. One
reason why they,
if anything,
focus on him so much. And so, like, I'm a little bit hesitant just to say I wish that there was more plot or that the plot was moving faster, because sometimes you don't need it. But I think JoJo,
in this case,
just the way that JoJo is and the tone of the show or the manga or whatever, I feel like the fact that we are just having a bunch of different stands over every week, it's not terrible, but it does kind of feel like there are maybe a little bit more than necessary. I do feel around the midway point when they kind of learn we have to take on 9 more stand users, like, out of nowhere, did kind of like feel like an artificial, like, lengthening, like, oh yeah, now we got to take on 9 more, they just kind of came.
I mean, sort of what I'm saying is, like, I just want to, like, I know they're progressing from episode to episode. They're getting closer to Egypt. They're getting closer to Dio, like, but I don't really feel that progression at all. Like, the show is basically driven by this plot of they have to go kill Dio to save Joseph's daughter and Jotaro's mother. Like, that's the plot. That's why they're going off to do what they're doing. But it doesn't feel like we're progressing anywhere closer to that.
Can I admit something?
Episode to episode. But I still love it. You forgot about her?
Yes, I forgot about JoJo's mother until you're like, oh yeah, that's what they were doing.
Yeah. I mean, that's
because the
like,
actual point of the series is go beat up Dio.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but sort of at the same time, like, I do feel like the way this is set up with the characters it has, it does need a bit more sort of narrative like, with those old Hot Wheels sets where, if you wanted to do the loop-de-loop or whatever, it has to go through the thing that makes the car go faster. Like, I think it needs some more of those things that makes the car go faster.
I think
except, plot-wise,
is that as opposed to the later parts, it kind of is very extremely simplistic plot-wise. It's like, go to Egypt, on the way you will get attacked. Nothing really carries over from episode to episode. Right.
And I think it's not only that, but it's that I think I would have an easier time with it if there was sort of that, like what I was saying with Supernatural, they have like the mythology episode a couple of times a season, even though they're constantly doing Monster of the Week thing, to make it feel like it's still, moving forward. And with this, we don't really have that sort of, major plot episode ever happening. and so it's kind of like there's no boosters and it feels a little bit like we've stalled. So even though I very much enjoy episode to episode, I can't say it's ever something I'll go back and marathon for fun like I would with part 1 or part 2.
Yeah.
Like
Anyway.
I might pick out an individual episode, but that's about it. Not that I'm not having fun.
There was some other fun stuff in this episode, like Anubis bitch being like, "Oh great, a wall," and then he's like, "Shit, I accidentally phased through the wall."
That was actually
I like that.
How do I put this? Like, I think that like little comedic section at the end of the episode was like pretty well executed, and even with like the English dub acting, I thought it was like longer than I expected it to be. I expected it to be just like a really quick, like 10-second little like, oh no, I'm flying off into the distance, and then it just like it kept going. Like I'm gonna hit the wall. I went through the wall. I hit the cow. Now I'm gonna hit the
Now at the bottom of the river, Mr. Krabs, he was number 1.
Like the fact that it kind of just like doubled down on itself. Like it
was fun.
Like, we don't care what you think of this joke. We are going to double down on it, and we are going to
we are taking
this thing out. And it's like, we don't care what you think. And I just thought that was just it was funny.
Yeah, I mean, they took it to its most insane logical conclusion, and it was a lot of fun. Like that's a lot of why I like this show, is that it will take those sort of gags and weird plot points, and it will take it to its most insane logical conclusion.
And somehow Polnareff, like a mile away, is like, "Wow, you see that cow over there being kind of weird?" like how do you see that?
With my special eyes.
You don't have special eyes, Polnareff.
Oh.
No, it's a lot of fun.
Anyway, guys, want to talk about Gundam? Oh boy. Mobile Suit Gundam, Iron Blooded Orphans, episode 45. If this is the end. And
how is he still alive?
I'll try not to talk about this one too much.
How is he still alive? That's all I want to know.
Who's still alive? Eok?
Fucking local, man. How does he... I swear to God, that guy's luck never runs out. Like, he's the dumbest motherfucker in this entire show. And he just keeps surviving, and I hate it. And I'm like... I kind of wish he had been introduced way earlier in the season.
Don't worry, Master Russell. I'll stand in front of you and protect you from the depressurization of the cabin.
Yes. Or from the giant, metallic spear that's going to come right through the window straight at us.
Gee, thanks, Eok. You're really helping.
And yet it somehow worked.
At least Juliet is really helping.
Yeah.
So in this episode, Chino's like, I'm going to make one last shot, and then I'll definitely survive. And then it's like, nope. Because he was just parading through the halls with a giant death banner.
Yeah. I mean, when this show kills someone off, they make it, like, way too obvious.
When it's like, time to start thinking about killing someone off, they wheel out an entire trombone section.
So I feel like this show, I think IBO is kind of it's a spotty show where like there are pockets of it that I think are actually pretty well done. And like if I look at it as a whole, I would say like, this show as a whole, there are lots of parts of it that I like, but there's just a lot of parts in there that are just like, I don't know, like raisins in a cookie, like what are these doing there? And it's one of the problems I think the show has is I like shows that try to like expand the cast.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know how. Don't preempt me.
No, sorry.
I like it when a lot of shows maybe focus on a really core cast of characters and might stick with them, like One Piece or something. Even though I know One Piece has a ton of side characters too, but obviously it's a lot more episodes. Now this show I think was ambitious enough to try to have a lot of characters and to try to provide some sort of balance in terms of like giving them screen time at various points and things like that. But I almost feel like it was too ambitious and overdid it, because when you get to the point where we start to see, like, Shino has been around since the beginning of the show, and he wasn't like ever like right in your face like number one main character, but he's been around for a while. But when he starts having a lot of screen time and talking about a big plan of his, we know something's up. And that's when we know he was going to kick it. And also, not only is it just makes it a little bit more predictable, but it makes it such a large cast that it makes each death a little less meaningful. Where, like, you know, like when we think of like Gurren Lagann, we think of Keaton's death. Like, that is one of the most biggest emotional impacts of the show. And also Kamina's death. Like, I think those are the two main ones. I know Gurren Lagann also has an issue with other characters dying that aren't really important at all, but I feel like it had just enough. It had a little bit more focus that those moments weren't so obvious. Like, it's not obvious at the beginning of that episode that Keaton's going to die. And also makes those moments a little bit more impactful with here. Just, you know, like, we had that one character die earlier in the season. What was his name? Aston. And then, like, Lofter's death was kind of surprising, and now we get Shino's death, and we had Naze's death, and I just kind of feel like there's almost too many of these. Like, they're not terrible. It wasn't terribly well done, or it wasn't poorly done. Like, I feel like there was actually some competence in how they carried this out to like a small extent, but I still feel like there's almost just so many of these character deaths of these side characters that don't get that much screen time that it's just a little bit could have been more focused, I think.
Yeah. I kind of agree with basically what you said. I do feel like they might have inflated the cast a little bit. And I feel like IBO is sort of the other side of the kill spectrum. It's like people complained about One Piece. I mean, before the halfway mark, they complained about One Piece not killing off any characters and everyone always survives and it's the happy ending. And I feel like IBO is kind of the exact opposite of that, in which they kill off way too many characters, and some for seemingly no reason at all. And they always, you know, they do wheel out the trombone section constantly for them. Like, I remember that one arc we had earlier in the season that was, you know, sort of the sequel to the space debris arc.
Yeah, with Aston. Was his name Aston?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, but
it started putting a lot of focus on Aston and the other character whose name I forget.
Right. And it's just
like, flip a coin, who's gonna die? One of them.
Yeah, I mean, they basically rolled out the trombone section for like the entire fucking arc. Was basically just handing death flags to these two guys. And
sorry, I'll let you go.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, I feel like they don't hold their cards close enough to the chest with all these deaths, and I think they just have way too many of them for me to care at this point.
I also feel like it almost dilutes. Do you remember Biscuit?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like leading up to...
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like leading up to Biscuit's death was better handled than some of these more recent ones. Like, Biscuit was a little bit more integral to the show up to that point. He was a little bit a core member of the cast. We saw his interaction with the other characters. We knew him pretty well as an audience. And his death, I don't remember exactly, but I don't think it was so blatantly obvious he was going to die. There was just a battle on Earth, and there was that Karna character, and Biscuit just happened to be there, and then he died. Like, it wasn't so obvious that he was going to die, but I almost feel like the second season has almost diluted that. Like, there's been so many other character deaths that Biscuit's just one of these deaths now. And it just, like,
it's just too bloody.
Especially when the show tries to make each death meaningful.
Right. But there's so many that they all just blend together at one point. And I think we've reached that point.
I feel like the most meaningful death in this season was Naze. But I still feel circumstances surrounding Naze in general.
I think the most
really awkward.
Probably Lofter.
Yeah. I will say that if they actually do it, the only death I'll really care about this season is if they finally kill off Eok. If only because he's death. Yeah, like, that's going to be my thing. That, like, I was more enraged at the fact that he didn't kill Eok than that he died. I was kind of like, you know, going into him like, okay, you're going to die, whatever. But at least you're going to take out Eok. At least he's going. You're not. It feels like that. Like, if you saw Kong, like the last one, And that guy going to the giant lizard, and he's holding out the grenades. He's like, this guy's gonna eat me. I'm gonna sacrifice myself, and I'm gonna blow this fucker up from the inside. And I'm gonna save the day. I'm gonna be awesome.
Whack.
Yeah, and it just sort of whacks him into the side of a mountain, and he blows up. And this felt a lot like that, except I didn't hate that lizard as much as I hate Eox. So this got more like, instead of a sort of a dark laugh, this was like me going, "You son of a bitch! How did you?" Like, I was mad at him for missing, even though he just died.
Iron Blooded Orphans is basically just this entire second season is just 25 episodes of the Steely Dan fight, where you're like, wait for it.
Wait for it. Yeah, it's just sort of one of those things where all these other characters dying, I don't really, they all blend together and I don't care. But the one motherfucker I actually would care about dying, because he just won't die. Like, they just won't do it. And like, every episode I come out of that thinking, how is this idiot still alive? And not, oh man, I'm really sorry that this character died or what. Like with Biscuit, I was like, no, Biscuit, I love you. You were awesome. And this season, I'm like, God damn it, Eox survived.
I will say that we're clearly at basically the climax of the show.
Yeah.
The final battle. I haven't seen the show, and I don't know if you have.
No.
But there's five or six episodes left, so it's basically a couple of episodes of battle and maybe a
denouncement.
Yeah. Denouement. And then
whatever.
French. So I feel like I feel like we've been really critical of the death elements of things, but I do think the show right now is actually pretty entertaining. Like this climax where you have all these different characters vying for power. There's a couple of silly things in there, like McGillis being like, "Why don't I have control of Gallarhorn? I have this special mobile suit."
But
I still feel like this ultimate climax that we've come to is okay, this is entertaining. Like, I want to watch this. I want to see the next episode. Where kind of maybe a couple episodes earlier into the season, at the beginning, I'd be like, do I want to watch this episode? I don't know. Or I do want to see what happens. And yes, these battles do have really high stakes, so you expect people to die. I just kind of feel like the way that the show is handling the deaths, the way that they flag it so obviously, and what we've already just talked about, is just kind of, it's just a little bit, it's a little bit tedious and in the way. But
yeah, it's kind of like how Hunter x Hunter has been killing off characters sort of left and right, but I still kind of care when those characters die.
And even then, I don't think Hunter x Hunter has killed that many, really, has it?
Well, no, I mean, it has, it gets a rap for killing a lot of... I mean, it gets a rap for killing a lot of characters, but in reality, it doesn't really kill a lot of named characters at all.
Should we talk about Hunter x Hunter?
Maybe 2 or 3 have actually died.
Let's talk about Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter episode 88, Rock, Paper, Scissors, and Weakness. In this episode, Shoot is a huge weenie.
He's a nice person.
That was pretty funny.
Now, first of all, you've both seen this or read it.
No.
No, I have. Yeah.
Oh, so Grex doesn't know what's going to happen next?
No.
Not really. I know bullet points.
I mean, yeah, you might have through osmosis know things. Okay, I was just curious. Anyways, one thing about the show, especially with this arc, but also previous arcs too, is that Hunter x Hunter has a ton of characters.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's you don't know when a character is first introduced, how important they are. Like when I see Palm, who's this crazy lady who I'm not even sure who she's affiliated with exactly. Who is she affiliated with?
She's one of the students of. I think she's one of the students of. I want to say the guy with the glasses that went with the chairman.
So is she one of the Hunter Society people? Investigating this NGL or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah, they're just not. They just didn't bring her because she's crazy. Yeah, she's crazy.
But yeah, characters like her, characters Knuckle, sometimes like I might assume like, oh, this character is just going to be around in this episode, and then they're just going to have like a bit part. They'll introduce some thing for the characters to know, and then we won't really see him again. But then like, okay, apparently Knuckles' role is to be like almost like a gatekeeper to Gon and Killua. Like, hey, if you guys can be me, then you guys will be allowed to assist us, if I'm understanding this correctly, in this whole Chimera Ant business. But until that point, we're not really working with you. And so there's just so many characters. Like, so Shoot just kind of showed up, and he was going to take on Gon and Killua, and
he was going to assassinate him.
Yeah, and then he just wimped out, and like, I don't know, like it's hard for me to like determine, like, heck, for all I know, Shoot is the final boss of this arc somehow. I don't know. I doubt it.
Also, there's another Royal Guard because things need to get even worse.
Yeah.
Here's the big dude, Methuthiopi. Just call him
Ethiopi. And now there's a third person on the same tier as the chairman. May God have mercy on their souls.
Fuck. Meanwhile, the chairman's just literally just taking up shop in the death, just straight up, the murder room.
He's got to grind out some extra levels.
Hey, welcome to the murder room. I'm Captain Murder. Are you here for your daily dose of murder? That's just a joke. You only get one daily dose of murder.
That man needs to grind some levels. He is too old for, what's coming, and he needs some extra levels. Like that's all that is. He just needs to grind out a few levels. And, otherwise, he'll be murdered.
Otherwise, there's more Bisky training, more fighting Knuckle, which is a whole lot of punching.
Mm-hmm. And then Bisky's still reading that porn.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Knuckle has some trick up his sleeve. At the end of the episode.
Oh, yeah, right.
They are basically taking on Knuckle. I know sometimes B-dubs, you probably kind of get lost, like, what haven't we seen? What have we seen?
Yeah.
Just kind of blend together for you. But at the end of this episode, Gon and Killua were taking on Knuckle at basically full strength. And then Knuckle said something like, he implied it to some extent that like he has some ability or something, some trick up his sleeve. And I saw some people in the thread say like, they kind of, hinted that it's actually really cool or interesting or something and unexpected.
Oh, no, it is.
And like, I don't know what it is. Like, it seems like Knuckles just kind of like this martial arts dude.
I looked it up. It's like the last fucking...
Like you'll never see it coming in your entire life, but it makes perfect sense given his personality.
Well, clearly he loves dogs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he loves all.
Guy who controls dogs version 2.0.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Knuckles just a really nice person. Like he's just really, really nice. Like to the extent that his ability is very nice.
Okay, that's enough hinting.
Yeah.
Anything else about this episode of Hunter x Hunter?
The only other thing I want to say is it's just kind of, I still have to wrap my head around that, like, this arc, how many episodes we have left in it is about the same, maybe a little less than the amount of episodes we have left of Black Clover.
We have like a year left of Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And this arc basically stretches almost to the end.
I know there's a couple episodes at the end that are not part of the Chimera Ant arc. They're just
there's a short arc at the very end that's a couple of episodes long.
And remind me, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but like the anime ending is obviously not the ending of the story, but it's a pretty decent stopping point or pausing point until there's more to adapt.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's basically the perfect place to say, okay, we're going to chill out here for a while. We'll be back when Togashi finally publishes more than 3 volumes.
Look forward to Hunter x Hunter, the Ging Chronicles in 2022.
Hooray! Do you have it? Does anyone have anything to say about Naruto Shippuden?
We got to hear Shikamaru's theme again.
Yeah, I mean, I like that.
I didn't know he had a theme.
I mean, he kind of does. And it's kind of cool. But other than that.
So let's move on to the big thing of the night. Outlaw Star. Outlaw Star, episode 26, Return to Space. In this episode, Hazanko turns into a giant Final Fantasy boss, and they fight him and they win. And Dr. Khan is like, "Cool, I'm the internet now. Bye."
This episode was very anime.
It really was. It was also very Final Fantasy.
We're in the cyberspace.
Well, no, I mean, like, that final form of the boss, sort of very much reminded me of, like, Seymour, one of his final forms from Final Fantasy X.
Just put in
Like-
one-winged angel and it fits perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, like, you guys know the version I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think so. But like, just the whole, like the galactic ley line is like this region in space with the Akashic record. Akashic record being,
Whatever. Magic wish granting genie.
being, a device used in lots of stories. And then like we are communicating with each other in like this cyberspace internet type of deal. And then even like Melfina's kind of personal conflict kind of resolves in like Melfina talking to herself in a very like interpersonal anime way. Like, I am the Melfina who is the ley line gatekeeper or whatever, and you are the person Melfina, and you can go, because of course we have to lead to a happy ending. So now we can basically both fulfill the role that we want to have by this magical hand waving. Just okay. And then at the very end, we have Jean and Jim, basically, and Melfina. They're together, and they're just going to explore or something. I didn't really quite catch it. They're just, they have a ship, they can go explore, so why not? And then like Suzuka and the Katara, what's her name?
Aisha.
Yes.
Just kind of show up. Like,
Aisha's name, but not for Suzuka's name, because Suzuka literally just showed last episode. He's like, by the way, this is why my character exists.
Yep.
Well, I was just saying, both those characters just showed up at the end, like, we'll just stay with you because we can. Kind of hand wave.
Well, I mean, they were going for the sequel bait.
Yeah, the last shot of the show was literally, "Hey, see you next season," but not really.
I feel like the show had like a pretty cool vibe and like this sort of space western type of vibe. It had like a fun amount of like this mix between like technology and magic almost, and the 90s style, and heck, even this 90s, or not, it's not quite 90s, right? It was late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, it was early 90s.
Right around
late
the millennium.
90s.
Like even the earlier voice acting, style, it kind of has like this nostalgic feeling to it. But I do feel like there's lots of moments in the show that are just kind of honestly aren't very good in terms of like actually being like a very compelling or well-produced show. Like there was a lot of episodes in there where like looked like junk, but also
we didn't need a bunch of the episodes. They could have cut that series in half, and it would have been fine.
My biggest problem with the series is actually the opposite. Basically every single thing. If you'd ask someone, what are the things you remember about Outlaw Star? They'd name off a bunch of stuff like the Outlaw Star and casters and Aisha and et cetera, et cetera. And then you actually watch the show and it's like, that was barely in the show.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, like first few episodes is like, look at this caster gun. Isn't it awesome? We won't use it again until the finale. It's like, Jessica, an awesome assassin. She's joining the crew, except not. She's never around.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of what I'm saying with they could have cut the, episode counts in half, because there was a bunch of filler where it's just like,
no, this needed like 50 episodes.
No, I mean, they're on like Beifong or whatever the fuck it was for like 10 episodes, and nothing happened in like any of those episodes. And, like they could have cut like 90% of those episodes out, and it probably would have worked better.
It's like hearing so much about, oh yeah, Outlaw Star is back from when anime was great, and it's like, well, you clearly were just a 9-year-old thinking it was cool to look at, because
I will say that, like the part I remember the most is that sort of race part, like the couple of episodes where they do that race and they got to fly between the two planets that are circling each other, and
yeah, it was fine. I think maybe, honestly, the Hot Springs episode might have been the best episode of the show. I'm dead serious about that. Like, It tried to do a comedy thing, and it nailed it pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it did good.
And nothing else in the show nailed anything like that. So
I don't know. I still have a soft spot for the the space race. Like when I think about the series, that's basically the thing I think about.
hey, remember how the pirates can use like Tau magic, except they never do?
Yeah, because otherwise Gene would need to pull out his caster gun.
Any fancy magic bat? Nope.
I think if not, I'm not sure they needed more episodes. I think they just need to refocus the ones they had.
I think you guys are kind of arguing similar things where
Yeah,
I was kind of saying like they should have taken some of these elements and expanded upon them and maybe integrated them better. Or you're maybe saying, well, these elements that they didn't really do very well with, maybe we can just cut them out and focus it more. And it's like, well,
right. I mean, either way, we're both basically saying that these. There's kind of
like these half thoughts in there, and you can either make them full thoughts or none thoughts in terms of what they were trying to like.
This is definitely it's a series with the severe attention deficit disorder because it can't focus on any one thing long enough
to do it really well.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got a bunch of cool ideas in it. The ship's got arms, and you got magic guns, and they're using magic in space, and people are getting shot with turned into like black holes and shit, and it's it's all really awesome when you say it like that. But then
like in 15 episodes in, they're already trying to like backdoor another show.
Yeah,
it's like, geez, get a second season before you do that.
Yeah, it's just sort of like watching it and going, this could definitely be more focused. Is I think the problem.
So, anyone else have anything else to say about Outlaw Star?
Oh, are we putting it on the thing?
Oh, yeah, you bet we are. Let me bring up that document.
Like, I just thought of it, like, just now.
Let
me see.
Let me post the link in the chat.
And I got to copy that over here.
I just posted it to the chat.
Oop. All right, let's see.
Here we go. No, that is not it.
Oh, somebody showed up as anonymous Nyan Cat.
Shit, I can't actually. The awards. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Maybe. Damn it, I had that. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Thanks, anonymous cheetah. Anyway, I don't want to read out this entire list again, so I'm just going to kind of stop, look at the camera right now and say, Seacaller, please edit in one of those, those like voice things you did for the awards podcast. Please make one for this list and just edit it in right here. Thank you. Because I don't want to say this entire list of 46 shows again.
Right.
But anyway, you should have hopefully just heard the list right there. Mm-hmm. I will PM him also a request.
Yeah.
Anyway, where do we think the Outlaw Star generally falls in this list?
Actually, I'm sort of looking at it. I'm thinking between Cashern and Deadman, or somewhere around Deadman.
I feel like I kind of had the same reaction to it as I did Lupin the Third, which is like, it's fine.
Lupin's a little higher.
Say it. What do you think?
That's roughly where I would put it. I think like my ceiling, like what I would not put it above.
It definitely can't go above IBO.
Yeah, I was thinking IBO. Like
it probably can't go above Naruto.
No, like I'm sort of thinking between Lupin and Star Wars.
And the floor would be probably like Bleach. Yeah. So like somewhere in that range.
I would put it above Lupin. Basically because Aisha.
I will say that Lupin did have a bunch of really good episodes, though. That
I
really
think I
sort
would
of
put it
did
below
good.
Lupin, maybe above Clone Wars.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm putting it. Like that episode where Pops actually caught Lupin and had him in jail. Like, I mean, that was just hilarious.
I mean, that's one of the only memorable Lupin episodes for me. And this one had, the Hot Springs episode and basically the stuff with Hilda and most Aisha focused
Oh,
episodes.
you're right. I forgot about the Hilda stuff early in the season. That was
Yeah,
actually
most people
good
do.
stuff.
Hilda
Okay,
they should have just kept Hilda and not had Suzaku.
That would have probably been a lot better.
probably. Okay, between Naruto and Lupin, then.
Seda?
Yeah, it's fine by me. I'm not picky if it's above or below 20. If it's in 27th or 28th spot.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it doesn't really matter. It's not like it's top 10.
And there you go. That was easy. Outlaw Star is the 27th ranked show in our list. Right below Naruto, right above Lupin the Third, Part 4. So thanks, everyone, for being here. That was quick. The ranking part, at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like the episode took about the same amount of time it usually does.
Yeah. Anyway.
We talked too much about Black Clover.
Yeah, we talked way too much about Black Clover and Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Anyway. Thank you, B-Dubs.
Okay.
Thank you, Seda.
You're welcome.
We'll see you guys next week for episode 97. Hopefully, maybe next week we'll know what's happening with the block. I don't know. We'll just keep having these 1 week special things forever.
Yay.
See you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.